Long before the kingdoms of men carved roads through the forests, the wolves ruled by oath and moon. The Hollowfang pack was the oldest of them all, bound not by strength alone, but by blood kept sacred. On the night of the hunter's moon, two brothers knelt before Alpha King Thorn. Their names were Kale and Dren. The younger bore a gentler gaze, the elder held hunger behind his eyes. The oath was spoken in tongues older than wind.
I bind my blood to the will of the moon, my claws to my kin, my life to the pack. I bind my blood to the will of the moon, my claws to my kin, my life to the pack.
Each repeated it, each meant it, or so they believed. In the forest, after the ceremony, Kyle and Dren sit alone.
Thorn is wise to keep the forest untouched. The pack is strong because we guard, not invade.
You think peace is strength? We've guarded long enough. Let the others kneel.
They're not enemies.
Then you're too soft to wear fur, brother.
What Kyle didn't know that night was simple. The blood oath bound the pack, but it could not bind the ambition growing in his brother's heart. Alpha Thorn felt the change in the wind before it came. The scent of betrayal did not rise suddenly, it crept like rot. Dren entered without bowing.
You chose the wrong heir.
I chose the one whose soul would not burn the forest.
The blade came swift. It struck not out of rage, but out of decision. Blood spilled onto the oath stone. The forest howled, and the betrayal began. Morning rose over Hollowfang, not with song, but silence. A scout returned from the sacred den, stumbling and wild-eyed, blood on his muzzle. He spoke no words, only howled. The sound cracked through the clearing like a wound made of sound. Kyle stepped forward, heart already knowing. They followed him to the altar. There lay Thorn. The oath stone still glistened red. Dren stood tall, unflinching, not in grief but in command. He spoke first, loud enough for every wolf to hear.
By right of lineage and first blood spilled, I claim the mantle of Alpha.
Not like this.
There is no like this, brother. Only power, and you were too weak to take it.
Some bowed, some hesitated, and some turned away, their silence choosing sides before their voices did. Kyle did not howl that night. He mourned with quiet rage. Beneath the roots of the burial hill, he knelt beside his father's stone and carved into it.
I will not break the oath, but I will break the lie. You gave me peace. He took it. I will take nothing, but I will return everything.
And with that, Kyle left the den he was born in. The forest watched him go. It did not stop him, because it remembered the oath too. Exile did not break Kale. It made him quiet, watchful. In the cold wind beyond Hollowfang, he hunted alone for weeks. But a wolf never walks truly alone. First came Lyra, the swiftest among them. Then her brother Fen, too proud to speak but never far. They said nothing when they found him. They simply walked beside him, as they had when they were pups.
I didn't ask you to follow.
You didn't have to. We still hear the old oath.
The pack had splintered, but not all had forgotten who Thorn raised to lead. In the throne hollow, Dren forged his own ritual. He bled power into a blackened bowl, demanding loyalty from the youngest wolves. They drank, not from belief, but from fear. The old songs were no longer sung, only orders were shouted. On the seventh night, Kael dreamed. His father stood in the snow, not as a spirit, but as memory made shape.
The blood that breaks can bind again, but not by force, only by choice.
Kael woke breathless and began the return. The first blow was not made in rage, but resolve. Kael struck fast and clean. His claws found shoulders, not throats. When the snow settled, he stood above them.
This is not rebellion, this is remembrance. Tell him the oath still lives.
When Dren heard of the attack, he didn't speak. The forest would burn. The brother he left alive had returned, and this time, Kael would not kneel.
If he wants the old oath, then let him bleed for it.
He shattered the chalice he once bled into. Kael did not promise them victory, he promised them truth. The kind that leaves scars, not crowns. And that night, before any battle came, they howled. Not to announce war, but to remind the forest what loyalty sounded like. Far from Hollowfang's reach, where the trees grew thick with silence, Kael found the stone. It bore the claw marks of ancestors, deep, deliberate. Across its surface a line shimmered faintly under moonlight. When two bloods rise beneath the moon, only the truer oath shall remain. Lyra read it aloud, and the wind answered.
It speaks of you, and of Dren.
Then one of us was never meant to lead.
Kael said no more. He touched the stone once, then turned away. He had no need for prophecy, only justice. Dren had grown tired of oaths. He cut the throat of a loyal wolf and poured its blood over the roots of the alpha tree. The winds turned bitter. The stars pulled away. Still he waited for a sign. Instead he received a scar, burned across his chest in the shape of a broken fang.
You will kneel, or I will tear the oath from your throat.
He did not realize the forest had already judged him and found him wanting.
When the moon turns, we meet him at the edge of the hollow. We speak the oath, and if he denies it,
then we show him why it was written in the first place.
The forest would see blood, but Kael would not let it be blind. The moon rose like judgment, cold, full, ancient. Beneath it, two bloodlines faced each other.
you broke the oath. You killed the blood that gave us breath.
I saved the pack from weakness. I gave it fire. You never had the strength.
No, I had restraint.
The forest listened. The moon did not blink. This was not a battle for land. It was for memory, for name, for truth. No horn was sounded. No howl marked the start. Kael and Dren circled each other like wolves had for centuries, letting instinct decide what honor could not. They clashed, not as brothers, but as consequence.
Say the words, and I end this without more death.
I'd rather die than kneel to what Father chose.
And under the full moon, the wind shifted. The pack began to move, some toward Kael, some away from Dren. The blood oath was no longer a whisper. It had become a roar. The dawn did not arrive with light, but with silence. The field still held the scent of blood and earth. Kael stood beneath the fading moon, wounds open, but spine unbroken. Dren had vanished into the forest, dragging shame behind him. The pack approached slowly. Not all bowed, but none raised a claw.
They need you to rise, Kael. Not to command them, but to remind them.
Then let them rise with me, or not at all.
He did not claim the title of Alpha, he claimed only the oath, and that was enough for many. Dren, broken but not defeated, crawled to the edge of the Direfang lands. They had once been Hollowfang's enemies, but blood, when spilled, binds faster than memory. He did not ask to lead, he asked to destroy.
You want territory? I'll give you the gate. Just give me his throat.
And in the shadows, the forest trembled. Because the war was not over, it had just learned to walk louder.
I didn't win, Father. I just refused to lose.
The stones did not answer, but the wind changed direction, and Kael felt it not as blessing, but as warning. It came without warning. Beneath the red moon, Direfang howls shattered the night. They struck from the north, where Hollowfang believed the forest still held peace. The outpost burned in under an hour. Burn.
They weren't hunting. They came for names. They came for Kael.
Kael did not flinch. He ordered no retreat, only regrouping. This time the oath would not defend, it would fight. Kael confronts a captured Direfang scout. He demands Dren's location, but instead hears a prophecy.
He wears the scar now. It bleeds when you speak. You'll never kill him, Kael. He isn't Alpha. He's Curse.
Then I'll end the curse, even if I leave the brother behind.
Kyle realized something then. Dren no longer sought power. He had become the weapon that prophecy warned about. They did not need a crown or a stone. They needed a bond stronger than fear. And so they marked the trees, each claw mark a vow, each cut a memory. It was not tradition, it was survival. Ash clung to the trees like mourning cloth. Kyle walked through the wreckage of what was once a sanctuary, now burned hollow by the brother he once protected. He did not cry. He carved. Every fallen name etched into a stone slab, placed beneath the roots of the elder pine.
You cannot carry them all along.
I don't carry them. I remember them.
And that was heavier. Fear spread faster than fire. Those who stayed behind wanted peace, even if it meant submission. But Kyle arrived before their doubt could harden. He said nothing at first, just placed one burned stone marked with blood on the center table.
Peace won't come from silence. It'll come when Dren stops hearing his own name in our fear.
None argued, because truth does not need applause, only memory. Dren's power had grown, but so had the curse. Each time Kael's name was uttered, the scar across his chest burned with unnatural heat. It bled when no wound was made. The forest had tied them, not as rivals, but as balance.
If I must become shadow, then I'll blot out his light.
2 moons watched the forest. One brought clarity, the other, blood. Kyle stood at the boundary Dren had once cast him from. But this time, he brought not exile, but unity. Behind him stood wolves born of fire and frost, not bound by fear, but oath.
If I fall, remember only this. We are not what they made us. We are what we kept alive.
And then the Direfang horns howled. Blood spilled across snow and soil. No sides, only survival. Kyle moved through chaos like the shadow of something old. He found Dren at the center, as always, and this time he did not ask for surrender.
You were never supposed to lead. You were supposed to protect.
I was born to take, and you were too slow to stop me.
Kyle fought not to kill, but to end the cycle, to close the wound left open too long. Their howls echoed beyond the trees, and then one fell. The fight was over, not because Kyle struck the final blow, but because he didn't.
You want this to end in blood, but I won't give you that.
You think that makes you strong?
No, it makes me finished.
Kyle turned his back to the brother who never turned his once, and the forest did not roar. It exhaled. Kyle faced them not as an alpha, but as a wolf who kept his promise. He raised no banner, he offered no reward, only truth.
No crown will be passed, only the oath, kept by those who still believe in it.
One by one they knelt, not in submission, but in memory. Dren was taken, not by force, but by the remnants of a pack who once called him king. They did not carry him to power. They carried him away from it. His scar remained. Because some wounds do not heal. They simply stop being fed. Peace, when it came, did not roar. It settled. Kyle no longer stood at the center of the pack. He walked the edges, listening to the trees that once called him traitor. They sounded softer now.
You could still take the mantle.
I never wanted it. I just wanted the oath to mean something again.
And it did, because he chose not to rule, but to remember. There was no new Alpha. There was no throne, only the altar, and the stone it stood on. Each wolf came, one by one, and pressed claw to rock, not to pledge loyalty to Kyle, but to the memory he kept alive. The forest did not crown kings, it remembered them. And in the quiet, Kyle walked beneath a moon that needed no blood to shine. He was never Alpha, but he was the reason the pack still howled. The forest softened with time. New life crept through the soil. Pups born under quiet moons nipped at roots and chased leaves instead of enemies. Kyle sat among them, not as legend, not as Alpha, but as storyteller.
There were two brothers. One ruled, one remembered. Both bled for the same name.
They did not understand yet, but one day they would. What was burned was not buried. Fen shaped new pillars from pine. Lyra stitched banners with no sigil, only thread dyed in ash and moonflower. Wolves came from across the valley, not to join, but to listen. Hollowfang had become more than a pack. It had become memory made solid. Far beyond the trees, where even the birds do not land, Dren lived. Not with wolves, not with fire, just with the echo of what he destroyed. One morning his scar did not burn, and that was how he knew Kale had moved on. The old stones still stood. The earth had softened them, but not erased them. Kyle brushed dirt away with his paw and whispered the words only one wolf ever heard him say.
I didn't lead them. I just didn't let them forget you.
And that was all Thorn ever wanted. They called it the Night of Echoes. No full moon, no stars, just their voices one by one, remembering what the oath had become. It was no longer law, it was a choice.
To stand, even if I'm the last one.
To protect those who forget they matter.
To howl, only when it's true.
Kale said nothing, because he'd already given all his words. He could have stayed, but Kyle knew the oath did not need his name anymore. He walked the ridges now, quietly, watching wolves live without war, not because he commanded it, because he stopped it.
I was never their alpha. Just the first one who refused to forget why we became a pack.
And for the first time, he believed that was enough. They told it like a myth, but the forest knew it as truth. One brother tried to lead by fear, the other by memory, and the trees still swayed in the direction of the one who chose to remember. When Kale's final breath came, it wasn't a roar, it was a hush, the kind only the forest could keep. No one saw him fall, but they all felt it. The wind stopped for a moment, the branches bowed, and the river carried his scent a little longer than usual. They didn't carve a crown into the stone, they carved a single line. He remembered, nothing more, because that was enough to save them all. The blood oath began as law, it ended as choice, and long after Kale was gone, the howl that once meant war meant peace.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment for more inspiring stories and content.